My beloved Caroline, oh, how I love you. We crossed paths at the bus stop. I greeted you with an innocent smile, but it seemed that you were ignoring my very existence. I felt disheartened and fragile after that moment. People say I'm a madman, but I feel that no one else should have you except me. That doesn't mean I'm mad, right? So, I followed you to your husband's house and made myself at home in the attic of yours. Getting in was easy. Both you and your husband had jobs in the afternoon. You were a receptionist for the local chemist, and your husband was a chef in a fancy restaurant a couple of towns away. Neither of you got good pay, but both of you needed all the money you could get so you could materialize your foolish dream of a future honeymoon. How do I know this? I've listened to all of your feeble arguments and pointless conversations while I was keeping myself occupied by practicing ways I can propose to you, my darling. All the times you swore you heard something, that was me, waiting, engulfed by the darkness of my surrounding territory, for the day that I end you and your husband's gut-wrenching marriage. I checked my watch. It was 7 a.m. on Valentine's Day, a perfect time to display my undying love for you. I gathered the gifts I collected for you throughout my years of searching for the right person, and descended through the loft ladder, and proceeded to make sure your husband doesn't interrupt me while I prove to you that my passion for you exceeds the imagination of anyone else in the world. There you were, out in the garden, watering the plants that you had been excessively taking care of. When you saw me hurrying towards you, you were first confused, but that confusion turned to fear as you noticed that I had blood spattered on me, and I had been clutching some gifts behind my back. You started to run, but I pulled out my silenced 40 cal SD-40 and shot you in the leg, so you wouldn't leave before I could give you your Valentine's gift. You were screaming in extreme pain, so I gagged you with the duct tape I was clenching in my other hand and dragged you inside. Luckily, you lived in a quiet town. You started kicking me, but resistance was futile, since I wasn't going to let you go until you loved me as much as I loved you. When I got you into the study, I threw you into the desk and shot your other leg. You were losing a good amount of blood, and I was afraid that you were going to die on me. So I ripped down one of the curtains, tore it up into strips, and wrapped some of them tightly around the bloody bullet holes in both your legs. I went back to the attic, grabbed my bag of goodies, and came back to find you desperately trying to crawl for your life. I grabbed you by your short brown hair and threw you back into the study and locked the door. You were bawling your eyes out and trying to scream through the duct tape. I recocked my gun and demanded that you keep quiet, or I would shoot you in the throat. That way you'd either die from blood loss, lack of oxygen, or by choking on your own blood. You calmed down a bit, but you were still crying your little heart out. I told you that I had a present for you, and that it was something you loved. I reached into my dusty, blood-stained bag and pulled something out that caused you to become pale in the face and forget about the gunshots in your legs for a brief moment. It was your husband's heart. The fucker had deserved this cruel fate, and I wanted you to see that I was determined to do absolutely anything for us to become a compassionate and happy couple. After telling you that it was your husband's heart, you started begging for mercy and forgiveness. I couldn't hear you, but nevertheless I was going to make sure that you would never ignore me again. I grabbed you by the wrist and twisted your hand with just enough force to make you submissive. I reached into my bag and pulled out one of the engagement rings that I had made myself. Although it was a bit small, with a bit of force, it turned out that the ring was a perfect fit, and it suited your personality perfectly. It almost brings a tear to my eye, but I know that it brought tears to your eyes, since you were flooding the floor with them. I felt privileged that my engagement rings could bring tears of joy to your eyes. Now you're asleep. You look so peaceful when you're sleeping. Now I'm going to make sure that you will never ignore my existence ever again, and that you remember what I have done for you. After I'm finished, I have to leave. But I feel that our time together will never be forgotten, no matter how many years pass, by neither me nor you. Police log, February 16th, 2012, 3:55 p.m. In Classified, a couple was found murdered in their own home between 7 a.m. and 9 a.m. on Valentine's Day. Mr. David Clark, aged in his mid-40s, was found butchered in his bedroom, with his esophagus and heart ripped out with what appears to be a coat hanger. The other victim, Mrs. Caroline Clark, aged also in her mid-40s, was found in the study with duct tape over her mouth and gunshot wounds on both her legs. The worst thing about her murder, though, is that she had a fractured left wrist, and the flesh on her ring finger had been stripped to the bone, with an engagement ring found around the middle section of the finger, with the words "True Love" engraved on the inside of the ring. When doctors began the post-mortem examination, they found that her body had been hollowed out, with the exception of her bones, and had been filled with engagement rings, with the same words engraved on every single goddamn ring: True Love. When the police asked jewelry shops if they had supplied anyone with a countless amount of engraved rings, they denied the claim, stating that they have never come in contact with someone that had ordered that ridiculous amount of rings. Detective believed the flesh was stripped with force, and that the ring was obviously too small for her finger, but not her bone. Suspect has been identified as Jonathan Wayham. He has never been taken into custody, and not much information is given out about him, except that he is Caucasian, he is approximately 6 feet tall, and he has extreme separation disorder. Suspect has not been arrested as of today, but search teams have been dispatched so we can find this madman. Also remember to keep your loved ones by your side. You never know what could happen to them.